In our previous lesson, we have added Flexbox and established RAM units. So let's take a look at how the website actually works right now. All right. So when you go through the individual elements, you can see that this whole area is in one row, the navigation is also in line, and the footer is also in line. That's great. Okay, so let's start writing some CSS. I already mentioned that the HTML will be a sort of a guide for us to name our classes so they would work with the HTML file as it is right now. So before we create more classes, let's just select HTML and body and tell them to have height 100% of the browser. And we're also going to style the A tag with this class, put text decoration, none. So the links wouldn't be actually, underlined as they were. So now we are ready to create our first class with the help of Avocode. So let's start with body. Obviously, we're going to need background color for the whole website. So let's pick this color from Avocode. Just go to color picker, click on the background, go back, paste it in, save it, switch to our website. As you can see that the background is already there. Perfect. So up next, we're gonna have to, define the font family for all of our text. If you click outside, you can see that there's only Source Sans Pro here. So let's select this font, click on the line, go back, and also we're gonna take the line height. Just click on the line, the value is copied, save it. Now go back to your code, refresh. Let's take a look at the HTML. And up here we can see that we have a container that is still not styled. All right. So this container is actually the width of the whole website. We're going to go back to Avocode, select measure. If you turn on the designer's guide, you can basically select one and measure to the other one. And you can see that this whole area between the coffee bar and the order button is 1070 pixels wide. Let's go back. And also, let's apply margin auto. If you inspect it, you can see that this whole area is 1070 pixels wide. It doesn't go further than that. Now let's open our HTML so we can see what other class we should define. Here we know that we already have the body, the container, the root, flexbox, align center. So we kind of forgot about the navbar here. If we click on the navigation, we can see that it has some height, some width, some box shadows, and background color. First of all, you can see that the RAM is here as well for the width and the height. That's not really perfect because we need that just for the fonts. So again, let's go to code settings, advanced settings, just quickly change the units. So now everything is in pixels, and we don't really need the width because we need the navigation to go all the way from left to right. So we're just gonna take the height and these two properties. Okay, seems like it has been copied. Now paste it in. There you go. So we need to create the style for this h1 for this headline. So we're just going to create a new class. So again, jump back to Avocode and let's select the logo, the text of the logo. And since we don't really need any of this, we have already defined the font family. We just need the font size and the font weight. So let's just copy these two and paste it in. Okay, save it. Let's take a look at how everything looks here. Okay, and you can see it's pretty squeezed together. So you kind of need to set some margin in between these two. So again, let's come here, zoom in a little bit. Let's just select this layer and measure to the logo. And you can see that the margin is 6 pixels. Now if you save and go back and refresh, you can see it's not that squeezed together anymore. Now we need to do something about this because it's again squeezed like this and we kind of need it right here. So let's go back to code and you can see that we have this right column right here, then we have the Flexbox, then we have the navbar navigation. So we kind of need to create these two classes. So first of all, let's do this one. We're just going to create margin left as auto. Go back to code and you can see that these items are now on the right side. It's great. I go back to code and let's create the navbar navigation class. So let's go back to Avocode. So again, we need the font size and we also need the color. So let's copy everything, go back, paste this in. We don't really need any of this. Let's take a look how it looks in the code. So you can see that these items are already styled. Since they all inherit the color of the A tag, we need to go back and add an A here. Save, go back to the browser and refresh, and you can see that they are now all black. Great, and we also need some margin from this button right here. So go to Avocode, select this area or this area and measure this element, and it says 66 pixels. All right, and one last thing we need to do here is apply Flexbox. So just type in display inline flex. Perfect. All right, if you have noticed that this button is different when it's being active, so we kind of need this style as well. So let's just copy the font weight, go back, code, navbar navigation active, and paste it in. So you can check that this has the active class, the about item. And when you go back to code and refresh, it's already bold. Perfect. So the last part of the navigation is the order button. So we're going to style the button, and we're going to style it for both this area and this area. And let's see what class we're using for the button. We're using order button. So let's copy that, switch to CSS, and here you can, let's copy this up top. It should be here, and let's create the order button class. Select the button, and so what do we need here? We need the border radius and the background color. So let's just select these two. And also we're going to need the font size of the text inside, which is 20 pixels. And even though this text is already all uppercase, let's just make sure that it's always used. Even when the HTML here would be lowercase, the actual code will be transformed to uppercase. See? Perfect. All right, let's just take this back. Now you can see that the order is still blue because it inherits the A tag. So you need to get rid of the text decoration. Copy this and create another class also with the A. Go back to Avocode, select the font, copy the color, and since the text in this button is slightly poorly designed, you can see that you can't really measure the paddings between the text and the border of the button. You're gonna have to use the rulers, and let's just take one here and the other one somewhere here. When you select the ruler and then you measure down to the edge of the button, that's 13 pixels, and this one is 28 pixels. Okay, so go back to code and type in padding 13 pixels and 28 pixels, and let's add in line height. So when you refresh, you can see that we have coded the navigation and the buttons. Now it's time to code this whole area, the layout. So basically this the kettle is in the div that's in this div. So we're gonna have to style this content, then the class left column, and then the class right column. So let's just create them real quick. Actually, we're gonna move this up top so it doesn't bother us here. And let's create content. And we're gonna need to position it. So let's go here, select the kettle, and measure to the navigation bar. That's 173 pixels. So let's go back to code and type in margin top . Okay, so, and let's style the left column. So go back to Avocode, and you can see that there is a slight margin that should be here on the left. So we're gonna in the designer's guide, select it, and measure against it. So right now it's 49 pixels. Let's put in 50 so it's nice and rounded. So let's type in margin left 50 pixels. And let's do the right column. So here we have the text, and we're actually going to need to have it white as this text field, so this text would never overlap, the headline. So you can see it's 450 pixels wide. So let's paste that here. Also, to find out the margin to the top of this image, so it's aligned perfectly, just select the image and hover over the text and see the 96 pixels right there. So the margin top will be 96 pixels and the margin left will be outer. So we have already styled this class, but you can see that this headline is in the h1 tag and then this text is in the paragraph tag. So we're gonna have to, take this class, get rid of the contents, and add h1 here, like this, and then create another one for the paragraph. Alright, so let's open up Avocode and inspect this headline. We actually want the font size to be in rem, so just quickly go back. That's perfect. So let's take the font size. Then we're obviously going to need the color and also the line height. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's style the paragraph. Go back to Avocode, select the paragraph, copy the color, then you're gonna need the font size in rem, and then the last bit is the distance between the paragraph and this headline, so that's 13 pixels. So the margin top, excuse me, is going to be 13 pixels. Let's go back, refresh, and you can see that the paragraph is now styled. Alright, now again we need to style this part and this part and the footer. Alright, now we have the circles. So here's some class content order. And that's actually also for the paragraph. So we're gonna style that as well. So go back to Avocode, select this one, the font size and the color. You already know that the color is, just FFFFF. The font size, and also there's a text transform for uppercase, just to make sure. And additionally, we need the margin distance between the pick your color and this paragraph, so that's 47 pixels. Again, you can simply measure that like this. Select either this part and hover here, or this part and hover here to see 47 pixels. Up next, what do we have next? Content order choice. That's probably going to be the little colorful circles. And also we have the circle. Select a circle and let's just copy all of it. In order to make it a round circle, you're gonna have to give it a border radius 50%. So in code, you can see that we have 4 perfectly rounded shapes right here, and each needs their color. So we will have to create a modifier of the circle. So let's check how it's here. So as white. Alright, and now let's pick those colors. You can see that the background color for this one this one, it actually shouldn't be here, it should be in the white. For this one, it's yellow. This one is blue. Take a look back, and all the colors are here. Okay, so you can see that there should be some space in between these circles. Actually, let's go back to Avocode, measure the distance, okay, 13 pixels. Go back to code and add margin, right, 13 pixels. Okay, and we're actually going to need to add a few more. So the distance between this part and this part, so that's margin top, 16 pixels. That's actually what the content order choice is for. So margin top, 16 pixels. Okay, this looks pretty good. And we need some space right here. We actually are going to need one more class for this. So here you can see that we have circles. So let's add circles right here. Margin, right? And that should be 30 pixels. 30 pixels. And you can see that looks pretty good. So the last part we need to do is the footer. So let's select this and measure against here. So that's 18 pixels. Margin button is 18 pixels. And margin top, we're gonna leave it at outer. Up next, we're gonna have these social icons probably. So that's gonna be footer social. So the distance between these icons is 30 pixels. And we're going to use the display inline flex. Looks pretty okay. And the last bit is the color of this text. So that doesn't really look that good. So let's see how that's done. Yeah, that's probably going to be the footer and the p tag. So let's just create footer p. So let's take the color, and it has some opacity. So let's take both of this and also the font size. Save it, go back, refresh, and that looks pretty good. However, there is one thing that I have actually forgot, and that is styling this black button. You know, if you remember in the design, it looked slightly differently from this one. It has the same size and same border radius. However, it has a different color and a stroke. So let's go back to our HTML. And here you can see that it's using this class. So let's quickly create this class. And we simply need just the border. And we're also going to set the background color to transparent. And there's actually one more thing. If you zoom in, you can see that the white circle has a drop shadow, but the others don't. So we're going to fix that in the CSS real quick. So we can find the circle, drop shadow, remove it, and then just put it on the white. Refresh, and you can see that now only the white one has the drop shadow and not the other ones. When you refresh and compare the coded result with the design, I think looks pretty good. All right, great. You just learned how to code a website much faster. I hope you had a good time, and thank you again for taking this class. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask me here or just send me an email. Thank you again.